Hi there folks, well welcome back to my channel, and for this video, with it being the last video that I'll be uploading for 2023, this will be a bit of a summary or kind of a roundup of what I've managed to achieve this year as both a reader and a writer. So yeah, be a bit of a perspective on what's happened this year, and it should be fun. But before I do get any further into the video, if you're enjoying my channel, if you're enjoying my videos, if you can click on the subscribe button, click on that notification bell, leave some likes, leave some comments, it's always really appreciated, and it does help the channel to grow. And yeah, and again I will leave a link in to the channel's ko-fi.com page and to the channel's PayPal account if you want to support the channel further, which again is always really appreciated. So with that out the road, talk a wee bit about what I've managed to achieve this year as a writer. So again, I have managed to publish one book this year. I would have liked to have published more, but again, life just has a habit of getting in the way and kind of getting in the way of creativity. So, but again, I did manage to get Ravensfall published this year. Managed to sell a few copies of it already. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that's going to be a sign of things to come, that hopefully it'll prove popular. And again, I am planning on really seriously working on the sequel and to Ravensfall, which will be the third book in my trilogy, and that's going to be called Ravens Reborn. Okay, I probably won't have it published next year, but next year I will be spending a lot of time focusing on writing Ravens Reborn, kicking it into shape, and hopefully having it published and ready for 2025. But again, Ravens Reborn, like Ravens Rise, is up on Amazon, so if you want to have a wee nosy, get yourself a copy and enjoy the first two books of my trilogy, that'd be brilliant. And also as a writer, I have actually managed to get to a few different events this year. I've managed to go to a couple of tabletop sales. I think managed to go to two of them at the Paisley Centre, which was being run by the Glasgow Tabletop Sales. So they were doing some events there in the Paisley Centre. And okay, managed to get some sales there as well. Managed to take part in the Brownsline Market as well, which has been run by Restoration and Creation. Again, great little event, great thing to take part in, and yeah, just great people to be hanging out with as well. And obviously, I also managed to take part in the Angus Book Festival, which was being held up in Montrose this year. And again, from what's happened this year, I have come to the conclusion I'll keep the Angus Book Festival as my main event, as my main yearly literary event, and I'll try and maybe focus on taking part in more local events and taking part in more things like the Brownsline Market. So again, I have managed to do, like, maybe not as much as I'd have liked this year, but I did still manage to get some stuff done. And again, still have some plans and hopes for 2024. And again, I will keep you all up to date with anything that does happen next year. And yeah, so hopefully, fingers crossed, 2024 there'll be more events to come, more things that I can take part in, and yeah, just more that I can show you all. So that's what's been happening through 2023 for me as a writer. For me as a reader, I have actually managed to, I always plan on reading more. I always plan on getting as many books read as I possibly can. But again, I am a slow reader. I've always been a slow reader. I think that is definitely a dyslexia thing. But I have managed to get 9 books read this year. Not as many as I have managed in previous years, but definitely more than I did manage last year. So the books that I managed to read this year was Alchemist and Rose by Sarah Main, Highland River by Neil Gunn, Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes, Wild by Amy Jeffs, An American Marriage by is Taya Rhea Jones? Okay, I don't actually have to know. I've always struggled to pronounce her name. There's Angus Folktales by Erin Fairley. I also managed to read an anthology on Scottish folktales, which featured a number of different authors. There was A Winter's Promise by Cristela Dabos, and I've also just recently finished Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. And I have to admit, it's like with the Diary of Anne Frank, that has actually been a book that's been sitting on my bookshelf for years, and just finally kind of got myself to actually read it, because again, it's one of those books that is a must read, one that I will always recommend people to get yourself a copy and just sit and read the book itself, because again, it very much does give a perspective on a major world event, obviously. Very much kind of allows people to kind of get into the mentality of, or a kind of gives a perspective that is often overlooked by history. But again, a lot of the books that I've read this year, even though the Diary of Anne Frank is one I will read again, a lot of the other books, they've not really jumped out at me as books that I would read again or recommend to others. A couple of them I actually did find to be quite disappointing, and the two that I would say were definitely the ones that I found disappointing. Just try and get the books out of the pile. The first one that I found disappointing was Alchemy and Rose by Sarah Main. And again, it was a historical romance. I had actually hoped that with it having kind of elements of adventure in it, that it would be something that I would find really interesting, that it would be a fast-paced story that would just pull you in, and you would just be intrigued and just absorbed by the whole story. And even though there were a few times that I did actually want to DNF the story or DNF the book, I was determined that I wasn't going to DNF any books this year, and I managed to push through, and I just kind of found a lot of the stories just to be really contrived, and the actual conclusion of the story, I just found it to be a total anticlimax. And it was just, even though most of the book itself I just found to be disappointing, it's just the ending itself just added to the disappointment of reading Alchemy and Rose. And the other book that I read this year that I found disappointing was A Winter's Promise by Cristela Dabos. And okay, as a YA novel, and even though I don't tend to read YA, I have read some that I've really enjoyed, like his Dark Material trilogy by Philip Pullman. And it's like, again, that's classed as YA, but it's a trilogy that I absolutely adore and I really love. And the whole premise of A Winter's Promise I found quite intriguing, and I found to be quite a promising story, excuse the pun because it's title. But when I actually read it, I just, again, was disappointed. I didn't feel like I didn't feel anything for the characters. I didn't want any of the characters to succeed. I didn't want... Again, that was another book that I really wanted to DNF, but as I was determined not to DNF any books, as I was saying with Alchemy and Rose, I managed to kind of plough through, managed to get through it, and yeah, that's definitely going to be one of the books I'll be putting in my pile to be taken into the charity shop at some point. Because again, definitely won't be reading either of those two books ever again. And I just felt it was just kind of disappointing that these were two books that I thought were possibly promising, that could be interesting reads, interesting stories, but just were kind of bland and uninteresting and not really exciting stories at all. But again, hopefully with 2024, it's a new year, definitely try and get some more books read. Mind you, I always say that every year, but definitely going to try and make an effort next year to read as much as I can and to essentially take you all along in my reading journey. And just like I'll be taking you all along in my journey as a writer as well. So hopefully you will all have a lovely Hogmanay, hopefully you all have a great new year, and hopefully 2024 will bring great things for all of us and hopefully be amazing things on the horizon. So hopefully you will have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.